I love it. I love it. I love it. Look at this. This is the greatest thing I've ever seen.
Hey, I'm not surprised.
Hey, what's up the homies? Leighton here for UFC Gambling Addicts, back again for another UFC full card breakdown and predictions video. This one's going to be Curtis Blaydes versus Derek Lewis heavyweight main event. Before we get into the fights, as always, make sure you hamzat smash that button. If you don't know what the hamzat button is, you gotta learn, you know, it's the like button, right? So smash that hamzat button. Let's get into breaking down these fights, guys. First fight on this card, we have Nate Maness versus Luke Sanders, and we're going to start with Nate. So Nate comes into this fight 1 win, 0 losses inside the UFC. Debuted against Johnny Munoz in quite a grueling debut for both guys. Nate Maness is primarily a boxer and a wrestler. In the debut, we saw a lot of wrestling up against the fence from Nate Maness. He basically smothered Johnny. Both guys got very fatigued in that matchup, but the bigger man was able to get his hand raised, and that was Nate Maness. The opponent, Luke Sanders, comes into this fight 3 wins, 3 losses inside the UFC. Primarily a kickboxer. More boxing than kicking, I would say. Looking back at his last 2 fights against 2 Brazilian fighters, he was heel hooked by Ronnie Yaya. No shame in that loss though. Ronnie has great BJJ. Against Renan Barão, Luke Sanders looked good. I mean, his boxing was the result in that matchup. Luke was able to put Renan Barão to sleep. Really difficult fight to start this card, guys. This is a difficult pick to make. Luke Sanders has more experience, arguably the better boxing, so that would be a good reason to pick Luke. The reason to pick Maness, in my opinion, would be favouring Maness to smother Luke with his wrestling, similar to his debut where he's just grinding on the opponent up against the fence, looking to fatigue the opponent. Just put Luke in a fatigue-like type of fight. Super difficult fight to predict, but I'm gonna side with Nate Maness to use his wrestling. But like I said, man, really goes either way. Luke Sanders, good experience, good boxing. Maness, he's up and coming, so yeah, really 50-50. I wouldn't bet on this fight, but gonna side with Nate Maness. My numbers would be -120 Nate, +110 Luke. And the actual numbers, we have Nate Maness +120, -140 on Luke Sanders. So yeah, a lot of money going on both sides, and you can understand why. Nate Maness has good wrestling. He's got to use that in this fight. Luke Sanders has good experience, a little bit inactive. So yeah, it's a difficult one to start with, but I'm gonna side with Nate Maness. Sue Mudaerji versus Malcolm Gordon, and we're gonna start with Sue. So Sue comes into this fight 1 win, 1 loss inside the UFC. It's been a few minutes since we've seen this guy, right? Just a few minutes. Sue is primarily a striker, for those of you who aren't too familiar with his work. In all honesty though, guys, can any of us really say we're super familiar with this man's work? Like I said, it's evident he's primarily a striker, and quite a flashy one too, but he's been off for some time, right? He's been inactive. Seeing the improvements he's made with that time off though should be fun. From what we can remember, he's a flashy striker. The opponent, Malcolm Gordon, comes into this fight 0 wins, 1 loss inside the UFC. Debuted not too long ago against Amir Albazi. I felt Gordon had a really good matchup in that debut, but didn't really show his potential. Ended up losing that fight via submission, which is quite surprising considering most of his wins are coming via submission. Originally thinking about this matchup, I was in the mindset of this one really goes either way. I'm still kinda with that mindset, but not as much as I was. If this fight stays kickboxing, I'd expect Sue Mudaerji to showcase his flashy striking. Nowhere near as flashy as a guy like Yair Rodriguez, but he's that type of flashy striker, you know? So you'd expect a lot of kicking, just flashy stuff from Sue. If Gordon can take Sue to the mat, then you'd expect to see Gordon potentially working towards a submission. If you think Gordon can take this fight to the mat, I'd say take that pick. For me though, I think Tszyu could keep this fight in a kickboxing situation, and if he does, I think he's able to kick a lot and show off his skill set. So for me, I'm going to take Tszyu Mudaerji via decision. My numbers would be Tszyu minus 160, Gordon plus 130. And the actual numbers are quite insane, to be honest. Tszyu Mudaerji minus 300. I mean, I don't see how. He's been off for a long time. He's coming back. Has he improved? I would hope so. I would say so. Malcolm Gordon, who's been way more active than Tszyu Mudaerji, comes in at plus 260, which is, you know, I don't see how. I don't get how. If the fight stays kickboxing, okay, yeah, Tszyu Mudaerji minus 300. If Malcolm Gordon can take him to the mat, I mean, it gets very interesting. Look at Tszyu Mudaerji's debut. He was submitted. So I don't see how this line is where it's at, you know. For me, Tszyu Mudaerji, but the line, man, the line. This one's a good one, guys. This one is good. Kai Kamaka versus Jonathan Pearce. And we're going to start with Kai. So Kai comes into this fight 1-0 inside the UFC. Debuted against Tony Kelly in a really fun fight. I advise you go watch that fight if you missed it. Kai is primarily a boxer and wrestler. He has both of those skill sets. His boxing is very, very sharp. Uses a high guard, the way Calvin Kattar or a Justin Gaethje would, which has its pros and cons, but I like to see it. For me, the high guard boxing defense, I like to see it. The opponent, Jonathan Pearce, comes into this fight 0 wins, 1 loss inside the UFC. Got to the UFC through the Contender Series, debuted against Joe Lauzon, and for some reason, he went into that fight minus 200. I was on the veteran all day, obviously, and he basically showed us, man, there's levels to this game. There's no other way of saying it, guys. Joe Lauzon smashed Jonathan Pearce. This is a way, way better matchup for Jonathan Pearce, but still a tough one. Who are we taking as the better boxer in this matchup? I'd say Kai Kamaka. Who are we taking as the better wrestler? Technically, I'd say Kai is a better wrestler, but Jonathan Pearce is going to have the size when it comes to grappling. So maybe that helps him if he chooses to use that game plan. But ultimately, I think Kai Kamaka is more talented at this very moment. If both of these guys kickbox, I think Kai shines in that type of fight. Maybe even finishes Jonathan Pearce if he's able to stand and trade for long enough. I'm going to side with Kai Kamaka via TKO in round number 2. I also want to note, guys, that Jonathan Pearce is fighting at 145. He mainly fights at 55, so that extra weight cut, right, it could be a problem, especially if Kai Kamaka is able to stand and trade, like I said. You know, if he uses his boxing, is the brain of Jonathan Pearce going to be able to absorb that damage? I'm not too sure. My numbers would be Kai Kamaka minus 200, Jonathan Pearce plus 170. And the actual numbers, we have Kai Kamaka minus 300, which is a deep one, but this is the sort of deep line that I could get on over like a Koski, right? By the way, guys, how good was that fight? Koski versus Palatnikov. Oh my God. Oh my God. I mentioned in my breakdown for that fight, you know, the line was off and nothing really told me that Palatnikov was going to get smashed, you know? The first minute and a half of that fight, the first 2 minutes, Koski looked really good. But yeah, that line was so off. This line is a deep one. Kai Kamaka minus 300, but I understand this one way more than last week with Koski, right? Can Jonathan Pearce get it done? I would say he would have to use his wrestling, but Kai Kamaka is a good wrestler. And if he's able to just kickbox and use his boxing, I think that's more than enough in this matchup. So we move from Kai Kamaka versus Jonathan Pearce to Rachel Ostovich versus Gina Mazany. Wow. Okay, so Rachel Ostovich comes into this fight 1 win, 2 losses inside the UFC. Primarily a judoka, has some nice kicks here and there, but it's been nearly 2 years since we've seen Rachel Ostovich. In her last fight, she was armbarred by Paige Van Zandt. Since then, we haven't seen her. It is hard to call this woman an actual fighter, and I'm just keeping it real, guys. It's hard to call Rachel Ostovich an actual fighter, right? The opponent, Gina Mazzani, comes into this fight 1 win, 4 losses inside the UFC. Honestly, guys, this matchup is stale. Both of these fighters shouldn't be competing at the highest level, but for some reason they're both getting the chance to prove they should be at the highest level. Did anyone play that original Xbox game, like way back in the day? It was called Juiced. It was a car game. On that game, you could race your car, and you could do it for a pink slip match, where if you lost, you would lose your car. If you won, you would win the other person's car, right? Same thing here. Same complete thing. The winner most likely gets another chance to fight. The loser most likely doesn't fight in the UFC ever again. This matchup really is so difficult to predict, because could Rachel Ostovich win against Gina Mazzani? Maybe. Could Gina Mazzani beat Rachel Ostovich? Maybe. I mean, this fight is difficult to predict for all the wrong reasons, right? When you have a tough prediction to make, it's because it's competitive. You know, you're looking at it thinking, this fighter can do that, the other fighter can counteract with this. This should be a good, fun, interesting fight because they're both pretty high level, right? This fight is difficult to predict because both of these fighters, in my opinion, shouldn't be fighting in the UFC, right? Rachel Ostovich is a little bit like Paige Van Zandt, right? Paige Van Zandt does the Instagram modeling, and Rachel Ostovich is kind of like that too. Gina Mazzani is more of a fighter, but still shouldn't be at the highest level. In my opinion, the safest bet you can make on this fight is the over. But even then, who's to say that Rachel Ostovich can't fire a knee up the middle to the midsection of Gina and hurt her? Who's to say that Gina can't ground and pound Rachel Ostovich for a finish, right? This fight is so unpredictable. I haven't got a clue. I haven't got a clue who wins this fight. I'm going to say Gina Mazzani, but man, oh man. If there's ever a time that I leave the card and miss a fight, it would be this one, but I'm still not gonna, right? I'm still gonna watch this fight. I'm kind of interested to see how it plays out. You know, Rachel Ostovich, in my opinion, shouldn't be at the highest level. Gina Mazzani shouldn't be at the highest level either. It's interesting to think about how it's going to play out. I don't feel confident taking Rachel. I don't feel confident taking Gina, but you've got to pick a side. My side's going to be Gina, but man, oh man. The numbers would be -110 each, in my opinion, because who knows? I don't know. I don't think you know. I don't think anyone knows. The actual numbers, Gina -140. Rachel Ostovich +120. Yeah, who knows? I don't know, guys. I'm going to take Gina, though. Maybe she's able to ground and pound Rachel Ostovich. We'll see. Right, we're back into better matchups. We have Martin Day versus Anderson dos Santos. And we're going to start with Martin Day. So Martin Day comes into this fight 0 wins, 2 losses inside the UFC. Primarily a striker. Martin got badly knocked out in his last fight against Davy Grant. He's looking to pick up his first UFC win. Looking to bounce back from a nasty knockout. Martin has some nice striking, but the one thing I noticed against Davy Grant is his striking defense really isn't good enough. And then you go back to his debut before the Davy Grant fight, and you can see kind of the same thing. Martin Day getting tagged up quite a bit in that fight too. The only difference was Pingwan gassed out, whereas Davy Grant didn't. And Davy Grant was able to find that knockout eventually. The opponent, Anderson dos Santos, comes into this fight 0 wins, 1 loss inside the UFC. Debuted against Andre Ewell in a fight where dos Santos also took a lot of damage. Andre's boxing looked really, really slick on that night though, so we do have to give credit to Andre. The positive to that performance from Dos Santos would be he showed how tough he was. Both of these guys have kind of poor striking defense, so I expect both fighters to crack each other a good amount of times. Dos Santos may look for takedowns to mix it up. If he isn't the one cracking Martin Day more, then Martin Day cracking him more, right? It's a good matchup for both guys at this point. But I'm going to side with Martin Day. I think he's technically better in a kickboxing fight. Whether or not he can put it together, that's another question. Because as of right now, he hasn't really been able to put it together completely. But I am going to side with Martin Day to get his first UFC win. There's been moments in both of his UFC fights where he showed us he's a good kicker. He's a good counter puncher. You know, he set down Davy Grant in that first round, right? So Martin Day really needs to show us in this fight, look, I'm here to compete. I'm here to strike. I've improved my striking defense. I do hope he's done that. Because in the Davy Grant fight, man, some of those punches, right? They weren't landing completely flush, but you could see it was like it was draining Martin Day's bar, right? You know, on the UFC fighting games, the more you get hit, the bar goes down, right? DC has mentioned this too. This is true when it comes to combat, right? The more you get hit, the more you slow down. Martin Day got hit quite a bit in his UFC debut. He got hit quite a bit by Davy Grant. So hopefully he can show that striking defense has improved. If he doesn't, I mean, Anderson Dos Santos can crack. That guy can really crack, and he can get cracked too. So yeah, this matchup's going to be fun from a striking point of view. I'm going to take Martin Day to get his first UFC win. My numbers would be kind of close, but I'd favour more Martin Day because of the technique. I'd put Martin Day minus 150, Dos Santos plus 120. And the actual numbers, we have Martin Day, exactly like I've said, we have Martin Day minus 155, minus 160, Dos Santos plus 130, plus 140. The underdog could win this fight. The favourite could also win this fight and pick up his first UFC win. So this one is going to be a fun one. Alright homies, last fight before the smoke break. And this is a fight where it can go either way. We have Ashlee Evans-Smith versus Norma Dumont. And we're going to start with Ashlee. So Ashlee comes into this fight 3 wins, 4 losses inside the UFC. How do we describe Ashlee? Seems to do it all. Boxing and wrestling. Doesn't really specialise in one area. She's seasoned in most areas of the fighting game. Isn't that active though. Nearly 2 years off since we've last seen her inside the octagon. Never a good sign. The opponent, Norma Dumont, comes into this fight 0 wins, 1 loss inside the UFC. Primarily a jiu-jitsu practitioner. Got smashed by Megan Anderson in her UFC debut. Norma didn't really show us any striking in that debut. I've got a feeling that she's going to have some striking to go along with her foundation of jiu-jitsu. This is a pick'em. Let's be honest guys, it's a pure pick'em. Could Ashlee use some good boxing, good movement to stay away from the grappling? Yes, she could. Could Norma at some point drag Ashlee to the mat and work from there? Yes, she could. It's a dangerous fight to bet on. It's a dangerous fight to have much confidence in. This fight is kind of like the Gina and Ostovich fight. It's unpredictable. I wouldn't say it's as unpredictable though, right? Both of these fighters, I would say, do deserve to be at the highest level, or at least, you know, get the chance to prove they should be at the highest level over the other female fight. But it's still a hard one because Ashlee Evans-Smith, by no means a world beater, but she can put in a good performance. Norma Dumont in her debut just had nothing to offer. You know, she got dropped pretty quickly in that matchup. Can she show improvements? I would say so. It's a difficult one, guys. I'm going to side with Norma Dumont to be able to drag Ashlee to the mat and use her jiu-jitsu. But yeah, it's really 50-50. So the pick is going to be Norma via submission. My numbers, just like the Mazani and Ostovich, I would put the same numbers, but because it's more competitive, not because both fighters shouldn't be at the highest level, I would put -110 on each fighter. Really a pick'em. Both female fights on this card are pure pick'ems. I'd stay away from them. You know, there's better fights to bet on, guys. So I know a few of you are degenerates and you're going to bet on near to everything you can bet on. But, I mean, if you can afford to, do it. But if you have a limited amount of money to play with, stay away. Stay away from it. The actual numbers, we have Ashlee Evans-Smith coming in -140, Norma Dumont +120, which is the same numbers as the other female fight. Just kind of shows you, right? Both of these fights are pick'ems. I'm going to side with the Brazilian. I'm going to take the plus money on this one. Alright, the homies. You know what time it is. If you waited to smoke with me, amen. If you've been smoking this whole time, double amen. If you're not a smoker, but you enjoy the smoke breaks, triple amen. Let's go, gang. Let's go. I hope all of you guys, as always, I hope you're all doing well. Your mental, your physical health, all of that good stuff. I hope it's all going beautiful for you. I've just had my birthday recently, guys, on Tuesday. Officially 25 years old. Mid-20s. I'm getting older now. I'm getting older. And I know a few of you guys who are, 30 and older, you're thinking, you're getting older. But yeah, I'm getting older now. And for those of you who are younger than me, like 20, 21, you're going to be 25 soon. You're going to be getting older soon. So, yeah, aging is a part of life. We all get older. We all age. You can't stop it. You cannot stop it. I think you can do something like preserve your body. Put your body in ice after you die if you're mega, mega rich and you want to come back for some reason. But yeah, I'm getting older now. Mid-20s. Just had my birthday. Smoked a lot. Smoked way more than usual. So it was a good one. My Instagram is on screen now, guys, if you want to hit me up outside of YouTube. I've decided that I'm going to start posting a lot of inspiration on my Instagram, right? We love these smoke breaks. We speak about inspiration. We speak about fights. We chill, right? If you've been smoking the whole time, or you waited to smoke, or you're not a smoker but you enjoy the smoke breaks. The smoke breaks, it's just a little time to chill out, speak about some things. On Instagram, I'm going to be doing the same thing, right? I'm going to be posting inspiration on my stories as much as I can, basically every day. Started today with the first one, and this quote that I posted today was, "Success in life isn't for those who run fast, but for those who keep running. So keep running," right? It makes sense. It does make sense, guys, right? If you're trying to get to where you're going as quick as you can, right? It's going to be difficult for you, bro. I'm not going to lie. It's going to be very difficult. Can it happen overnight? It can. People have done it overnight. It is possible. I'm not saying if you sprint, you can't get there. But I'm saying for the majority, right? For the most of us, just keep going. Just keep running and you're going to get there, right? The only way you're not going to get there is if you stop running, right? If you're, let's picture it like this. If you're on a race and you're running to the finish line, only you can stop yourself. Only you can take yourself off the track. Only you can stop the race. So if you keep running, you're going to get there. Now, some people may sprint and get there, but some people sprint and they don't get there, right? But the main point is just keep running. Just keep running and you're going to get there, all right? So amen to that. If you needed to hear that today, amen to you. Some people on Instagram have messaged me from that story and said, bro, I needed to hear that today. And we all need to hear that, right? We all need to hear some stuff sometimes that helps us stay on track, right? On track, the race. You got to stay on track. Only you can take yourself off of that track. Only you can stop the run. You keep running, you're going to get there. We spark back up to that, right? Amen. So, thinking about last week's card, I know I don't do the recaps yet. I haven't got much time to do the recaps because I do a lot of study for cards that are coming up. But the smoke break is a nice time to speak about a few fights from last week. Koski, I mentioned earlier, so we're not going to mention that. It was a great fight, just an amazing fight. Valentina, right? I took Valentina by a decision. I felt Maya would be tough enough to go 25. Not only was she tough enough to go 25, she was good enough to steal a round off of Valentina. Valentina dropped to minus 300, guys, which is unheard of, right? Unless you're fighting Amanda Nunes, if you're Valentina, it's unheard of. So massive credit to the Brazilian fighter, Jennifer Maia. She's got a good career. She's got a good career in this game. I think her next opponent, she's going to show us her toughness again, her punching power, her grappling, her jiu-jitsu, her will not to give up, which kind of goes hand in hand with the whole success in life is for those who keep running, right? She didn't give up in there. She just kept going, man. And she went 25 with arguably the best fighter in Valentina, right? Unless you're Amanda Nunes. And the main event, right? What can we say for the main event? Just pure brilliance from Deiveson Figueiredo. Again, that guy is so talented. Like mega talented. Jiu-jitsu, karate, boxing, conditioning, scrambling, wrestling, nastiness, power, size. The list goes on for Deiveson Figueiredo. I really believe that guy's going to be a champion for a long time. I really do. He's matched up now with Brandon Moreno, which is a great fight. I really respect Brandon Moreno. I think that could be his toughest fight to date as a champion. That is a tougher fight than Joey Benavidez, in my opinion. I'd have to still go and check who's going to win that fight, but that is a really good matchup, guys. As always, homies, I hope you enjoyed the smoke break. I hope the motivation hit home for those of you who needed to hear it. For those of you who didn't need to hear it, still, right? If you're running and you didn't need to hear it today, amen to you. For those of you who slowed down, stopped running, start running. Keep running, bro, and you're going to get there. Friendly reminder too, guys, if you haven't hit the Hamzat button, the like button, please make sure you do that. On YouTube, as a content creator, I'm trying to navigate through this YouTube algorithm, and it seems the best way to do that is to get likes on your content. So if you want to help promote my channel to get to 10,000 subscribers quicker than what we're going to do, the best way to do that is to subscribe if you haven't, and also hit the Hamzat button. So make sure you do that if you haven't, and let's get into breaking down this main card. Alright, first fight on this main card, guys, we have Bill Algeo versus Spike Carlisle. And we're going to start with Bill. So Bill comes into this fight 0 wins, 1 loss inside the UFC. Primarily a kickboxer. A heavy kick type of game does Bill Algeo have. I actually took Bill against Ricardo Lamas in his debut as a big underdog. Despite losing that fight, I think he showed a lot of people his ability. He's really not a bad fighter. He does deserve to be fighting at the highest level. His kicking ability, by far the best ability this man has. The opponent, Spike Carlisle, comes into this fight 1 win, 1 loss inside the UFC. Man, Spike Carlisle has been nothing but entertaining so far. His debut with the elbows up against the fence, then a complete war with Billy Q. Spike Carlisle is one of these guys who's only going to be in fun, entertaining fights. Spike used a lot of wrestling against Billy Q in that first round, put Billy in quite a few bad positions on the mat, but wasn't really able to finish Billy with his jiu-jitsu. If Spike Carlisle uses the same type of game plan here, where he's looking to take Algeo to the mat, looking to fatigue him in a wrestling match, I think he could get it done. The concern though is what if Spike uses a lot of wrestling and can't get him out of there with his jiu-jitsu? Bill Algeo could start to pick Spike apart on the feet with his kicking game. You can see the paths to victory for both guys in this matchup. For me though, I'm siding with the grappler. I think Spike Carlisle this time is able to get it done with his wrestling. He needs to take Bill to the mat, use his jiu-jitsu, and just fatigue Bill the way Ricardo Lamas did in that final round. It's a really tough matchup to predict, and like I said, you can see the paths to victory for both fighters, but for me, I'm going to side with Spike Carlisle. My numbers would be Spike minus 140, Bill Algeo plus 110. And the actual numbers, Spike minus 175, minus 180, Bill Algeo plus 140, plus 150. So again, Bill Algeo is an underdog. This time, not so much of an underdog, but yeah, I think there's a little bit of value in Bill Algeo's line. I do see him having a better chance than plus 150, plus 160. But overall, I'm going to side with Spike Carlisle. Another really good matchup on this card. We have Miguel Blaydes versus Takashi Sato. And we're going to start with Miguel. So Miguel comes into this fight 2 wins, 0 losses inside the UFC. Primarily a striker with a background of jiu-jitsu too. Miguel is a powerful guy, man. His low kicks in his UFC debut, very noticeable. Against Matt Brown, he overcome adversity in that first round to later put Matt Brown down with a nasty lead hook. The potential Miguel has is evident. He's only going to get better from here. The opponent, Takashi Sato, comes into this fight 2 wins, 1 loss inside the UFC. Primarily a striker. It's clear to see this man's ability too. He was wobbled by Ben Saunders in his debut, but then you look at the way that fight finished, right? Impressive. There's no shame in his loss to Belal Muhammad, because Belal Muhammad is an absolute workhorse. Most recently, Sato got a clean, quick finish against Jason Witt. Maybe the cleanest performance he will ever have in the UFC. Either of these fighters have the ability to find a TKO stoppage in this fight. The difference, in my opinion, is one man is more durable than the other man. I think Miguel can take more than Sato. Picturing Sato landing clean on Miguel, I think Miguel can take that punch a few times before it's the end. Picturing Miguel landing clean on Sato, I don't think Sato can take that punch too many times, you know? For me, the difference is durability. That's where I'm making my pick. Sato will have to get in and out with his striking, because if he doesn't, I think he could go to sleep. Like I said, both of these guys do have the ability to find a stoppage with their striking, but I'm leaning more towards Miguel being a little bit more lethal with his punches. You know, like I said, Sato landing clean on Miguel, it could put him out. But I think it takes a few more than one. Miguel landing clean on Sato, it could just be 1 or 2 that does it. So for me, I'm leaning towards Miguel Blaydes. Are both guys very good strikers? Yes, they are. But the durability is where I'm making my pick. I just think Miguel can take the shots a little better than Sato. So for those reasons, I'm going to take Miguel Blaydes via TKO in round number 1. My odds would be Miguel minus 180, Sato plus 150. And the actual line, we have Miguel minus 150, minus 145. Okay. Sato plus 130, plus 135. So a little bit more faith going into Sato than I'm projecting in this breakdown. And that's fair. You know, Sato is a nice striker. He's light on his feet. You know, the clean performance against Jason Witt really highlights this man can put you out. But Miguel Blaydes, in my opinion, has only been impressive. The Contender Series, the debut with the low kicks, overcoming adversity against Matt Brown, a veteran. Yeah, this is a really good matchup, but I'm going to take Miguel Blaydes. Josh Parisian versus Parker Porter, and we're going to start with Josh. So Josh comes into this fight 13 wins, 3 losses as a pro, making his UFC debut. Recently fought on the Contender Series too, had a beautiful performance. The type of performance that gets you a UFC contract. Josh likes to take his opponents to the mat and smash from there. By no means a Khabib or a Hamzat, but it's clear to see what Josh likes to do, and that's take you to the mat and smash you. The opponent, Parker Porter, comes into this fight 0 wins, 1 loss inside the UFC. Parker got clipped and finished by Chris Daukaus in his debut. I took Parker in that matchup thinking his boxing would be more powerful. It could be the result, but I couldn't have been any more wrong than what I was. Parker was completely outboxed in that fight. His movement wasn't good enough. I know you don't have to be in the best shape of your life as a heavyweight fighter, but man, it's still nice to see, you know? Parker's shape didn't look healthy, potentially affected his movement in that fight. I don't think Josh is going to stand and box with Parker the way Daukaus did. The game plan for Josh in this fight would be to shoot for a takedown. From there, he's now in his world of ground and smash. Would Parker Porter be able to get back to his feet if he's taken to the mat? If he comes into this fight in the same shape he was in his UFC debut, I'm going to say no. He doesn't get back to his feet. So for those reasons, I'm going to take Josh Parisian via TKO, via ground and smash in round number 1. My numbers would be Josh minus 200, Parker plus 170. And the actual numbers for this matchup, we have Parisian minus 200, bang on, Parker Porter plus 170, yeah. So for Parker to win this fight, it's simply stand and trade. It's simply catch Josh before he gets that takedown. If Josh gets the takedown, I think it's over. I think it really could be over just like that. Parker Porter, you know, in the debut, the movement, it didn't look too good. He was getting clipped on the feet. It looked like the sport passed him, right? For those of you who aren't too familiar with Parker Porter, and, you know, like I mentioned earlier for Sue Madaji, none of us are really too familiar with Sue. None of us are too familiar with Parker. But for those of you who are, Parker Porter, you know, had an MMA career like 10 years ago. You know, he's been fighting for a long time, but it looked like in his UFC debut, he was an MMA fighter from a different generation. So it's going to be interesting to see, you know, is he coming into this fight with a better shape? Is he going to have better movement? Is he going to be able to get back to his feet if he's taken down? I'm not too sure. I think Josh Parisian has a good UFC debut here. If he takes Parker down, it could be it. And that's what I'm going to predict in this matchup. Anthony Smith versus Devin Clark, co-main event. And we're going to start with Anthony. So Anthony comes into this fight 8 wins, 6 losses inside the UFC. Primarily a boxer. The Lionheart of the UFC. This man never stopped, guys. He kept going in his career, eventually made it to the highest level. From there, he still didn't stop. Eventually made it to the point where he stepped foot into the octagon with John Jones. It just shows you that hard work will pay off. Smith is coming off a loss to Glover and then a loss to Rakic. Kinda surprising beatdown, in all honesty, from Glover to Scherer, but it's Glover, right? The man will take damage and then he'll use his veteran experience to overcome whatever you're trying to do. The opponent, Devin Clark, comes into this fight 6 wins, 4 losses inside the UFC. Primarily a wrestler. Devin has never been a big guy for the 205 weight class. As Joe Rogan would describe him, Devin Clark, look at this guy's legs. This guy has tree trunks for legs. And he really does, right? Most of Devin's weight really is in his legs. His ability to drive you into the fence and keep you there is quite impressive, but it doesn't always seem to work for him. I had a conversation on Instagram with a subscriber regarding this fight. So shout out to Astrid. I think that's how you say your name. I think I said it right. If I didn't, I'm sorry, bro. But yeah, Me and Astrid spoke about this fight, trying to decide whether or not Anthony Smith has what it takes to win this fight. We came to the conclusion that he does have the ability to win this fight. Anthony Smith has the size advantage, the boxing advantage, experience advantage. He has a lot of advantages in this fight. The advantage he doesn't have is the wrestling. So if you're betting on Devin Clark, you're basically thinking he can take down Anthony Smith and keep him there round after round. I'm not too sure he can. Anthony Smith has a lot to prove in this matchup. It's a big step down in competition. If he loses this fight, it's a really sad decline towards the end of his career. From fighting John Jones, to losing to Glover, to getting smashed by Rakic, to then losing to Devin Clark. It would be a sad thing to see, but I'm not going to predict that. I'm going to predict that Anthony Smith is able to stay on his feet, or at least get back to his feet. And you got to remember, guys, Anthony Smith has some decent BJJ too. My line's going to be Anthony Smith minus 150, Devin Clark plus 120. Could Devin Clark do it? I mean, he has to use the wrestling. He has to keep taking Anthony Smith down, look to put him in that type of fight, but Anthony Smith has a lot to prove. Can he stay on the feet? I think he can, and Astrid thinks he can too. So Anthony Smith is going to be the prediction in this co-main event. And the actual numbers for this line, we have Anthony Smith minus 135, Devin Clark plus 110. I mean, there's a lot of money going on this line, right? A lot of people are thinking Devin Clark can do it. A lot of people are thinking, man, Anthony Smith minus 130, we can't let him get to plus. So, yeah, there's a lot of money on this co-main event. There is money to be made here, whether you're taking Devin Clark or Anthony Smith. My prediction's going to be Anthony Smith is able to prove he's still got it. Alright, my homies, main event time. If you've enjoyed the breakdown, please be sure to smash the Hamzat if you haven't. Subscribe if you haven't. We have Curtis Blaydes versus Derek Lewis. Really good main event. Let's start with Curtis Blaydes. So Curtis Blaydes is primarily a wrestler. And for those of you who aren't too familiar with Curtis Blaydes, let me be the first to tell you, this man is a brilliant wrestler. One of the best wrestlers in the UFC. Arguably the best heavyweight wrestler we currently have. His ability to take you to the mat, brilliant. If you get back to your feet, he'll take you back to the mat. He's really just a brilliant wrestler, guys. Now, I want to go back to his fight with Mark Hunt, because I think this fight in particular was a real learning lesson for Curtis Blaydes. Now, Curtis, like I said, is really good at what he does. He's a wrestler. In this fight, he chose to stand and trade with Mark Hunt. He got clipped. He got clipped in this fight, and the second he got clipped, he went straight back to what he's good at doing, and that's wrestling. I believe from this moment on, Curtis Blaydes knew, man, I have to just keep doing what I'm good at. I just have to keep wrestling. There's nothing worse than when a guy is really good at something and he deviates from that. He becomes something else. An example would be Gregor Gillespie, right? This guy is also a very good wrestler. He decided to stand and trade with Kevin Lee. The reasons for that would be Kevin Lee's a good wrestler, so maybe he felt, I can't use my wrestling here. In my opinion, Gregor Gillespie should have wrestled, but let's not get off of track from the main event. Curtis Blaydes had that moment where he got clipped, he went straight back to wrestling against Mark Hunt. Now, he did stand and trade with JDS and he was able to get it done on the feet. But I think Curtis Blaydes knows, he knows I have to keep wrestling and wrestling and wrestling because that's where I'm going to become champion. And that's what he's going to choose to do here. Is he going to stand and trade with Derek Lewis? I don't think so. Now, Derek Lewis, we know about this guy. This guy hits equally as hard as Francis Ngannou. He could sleep a plane. That's how hard Derek Lewis hits. Now, how does Derek Lewis win this fight? It's simple. Stay on the feet and try to TKO Curtis Blaydes. That's exactly where Derek Lewis has made his career. It's knocking people out. He's cashed as an underdog many times. Can he cash as an underdog again? It would simply be knock Curtis Blaydes to another realm or get taken down and smashed by Curtis Blaydes. You look at the groundwork from Curtis Blaydes against Alistair Overeem. I mean, the elbows, you know, there's a reason why this guy is called Razor Blaydes. He's going to smash you with ground and pound. He's going to favour position over ground and pound when the time's right. Can Derek Lewis do it? I wouldn't say no. I wouldn't say yes. It's really, if Derek Lewis can just clip him, he can win. If Curtis Blaydes can take you to the mat, he's going to win. If you're betting on Derek Lewis, you may as well just take the TKO prop. Is he going to submit Curtis Blaydes? I mean, that would be, well, imagine that one, guys. That would be pretty insane. Is he going to go 25 minutes with Curtis Blaydes and win a decision? I don't think so. Derek Lewis, we know what he loves to do, guys. It sends you to another realm. So if you're betting on Derek Lewis, you may as well take the TKO prop. If you're betting on Curtis Blaydes, he can win anyway, right? He can win TKO. He could potentially take the back of Derek Lewis and submit him. He could go 25 minutes and not find that TKO on the mat. So Curtis Blaydes, if you're betting him, I think it's money line. If it's Derek, I think it's a TKO prop. My prediction, I'm sure all of you know which way I'm going to go. I'm going to go with Curtis Blaydes. I don't really go against this guy. For some reason, I took the Russian heavyweight fighter. I forgot his name now. For some reason, I took him against Curtis Blaydes, thinking he can keep it on the feet. But other than that, I've not gone against Curtis Blaydes. And I'm not going to go against him here. The path to victory is take Derek Lewis to the mat and smash him. And I think he does exactly that. I think it's going to be a stoppage, maybe round 2, round 3, maybe a little bit later if Derek Lewis really has improved his cardio, which, you know, hasn't really over the duration of his career. So that's going to be my prediction, guys. I'm going to take Curtis Blaydes via TKO on the ground in round number 2. My odds would be, I'd put Curtis Blaydes minus 300. Derek Lewis plus 270. But like I said, if you're betting on Derek, you may as well take the TKO prop. The current line, we have Curtis Blaydes from minus 300 up to minus 400. I don't disagree with it. Derek Lewis from plus 250 up to plus 320. I don't disagree. Alright, homies, be sure to drop your comments below. Your underdogs, your main event prediction, all of that good stuff. Let's get engaging. And if you want to catch me on Instagram outside of YouTube, that will also be at the end of this video. Alright guys, peace.